knows it, but I keep hearing people when they talk to me about marketing budgets saying, well, our customer's not online. Everybody's online. That number up there, 85%. The only people left not online are people who say, I'm too old to learn it, they're too poor to have access to it, they're all online. So if you have somebody who's saying we still want to keep most of our budget offline, please remind them that everybody is online. One of the things when I talk to people about strategy, before I get into this, is we really want people to think about the benchmarking idea. Where are you right now? And assessing where you are. How many of you have looked at each of your online marketing programs or all of your marketing programs from last year and said, how did each of these different channels perform for me? Everybody? Nobody? As part of your 2013 planning, you should be looking and saying, well, I invested money here. And in the world of social media, I invested time here. Or in any program, you have an option to spend time on X or Y. And if you're not saying, well, I spent 40 hours on this and it yielded nothing, or I spent half my year doing this and I got no benefit from it, you shouldn't be doing a planning process on how you're going to allocate next year's budget. I think in interactive marketing we have shiny object syndrome. Shiny object syndrome to me is, hey, this new thing came out and everybody else has it, so I'm going to get it. You don't have to have everything everyone else has. You need to be thinking about what your goals are, what your demographics are, and what's going on. One of the reasons I say your customer demographics matter, and the reason I provided the Pew Internet Foundation study on who's on each of the different top 5 major social media platforms, they vary dramatically. If you look at the difference between the demographics of a Pinterest versus a Google Plus or any of them, or Instagram, there's a tremendous variance in household income, where they live, suburban, urban. If you know what your customer is, you can choose the right channels. If you know who customer you're targeting, you can choose the right channels. So I'm going to step that right there, that strategy is important. These are what I call, this is my continual surprise wheel. These are the things I think are the basics in digital marketing. And so really I don't need to go through them, but I'm constantly amazed at people who don't have these in their world. So right now I find concise, clear website, content strategy, all those things. Most people say, okay, well we've been thinking about that, we've been doing that. I have clients who won't put mobile websites in their budget, or a dynamic website that size is based on the platform. Right now we have 46% of the American population on smartphones. After this holiday season, with all the shopping that's being done, we will cross 50% of America on smartphones by January 2012. If you haven't built a dynamic site that says, hey, this person's on a mobile phone, let me just give them the information they're most likely to want, you're really missing out on that trend. And so I'm going to talk more about mobile as we go through, but I do find that if you don't have these things in place, don't start looking at the next shiny object, sort out where you are, because there's always a new shiny object. All right, this one is a Pew research. You will hear me quote Pew a lot. I find industry statistics typically are run. The research is done by the company who wants you to use their product. I typically try to find individuals or corporations or I guess organizations that are doing it mainly for the tracking of what's going on to find out the true data. No offense to anybody in here who runs these kind of surveys, but if you're running a survey and your goal is to find out that we want all of America to take this pharmaceutical, you're going to find out a way to make that survey result come out in your favor. We're marketers, we know that, so as you're looking at data online, consider the same thing, consider your source. But Pew Internet Foundation, as of today, as of this day and age, 56% of Americans, first thing they do is go to a search engine when they're making a buying decision. 56%. They're not watching television, they're not looking through a print ad, they're not looking at a book. 56% of Americans, first thing they do is go online. They get a search engine. Higher the income, the more important that happens. So let's talk about that. 56% of Americans, if they're going to make a shopping decision, they go online. Google is only going to be 15 years old in 2013. I bet every person in this room can remember where they were 15 years ago. Do you remember what you were saying before you said, I'm going to Google that? Do you remember what your life was like when you were trying to find information? Do you think that's an amazing thought, that it's only 15 years old? Does anybody think it's older than that, younger than that? I mean, it's a kind of a
library.
Sorry?
I go to the library.
You used to go to the library?
Like
Oh, you're my hero. And like, look at the little data cards. All right. If you want to be even more amazed, and I find this amazing, how many of you have shopped at Amazon this holiday season? Jeff Bezos founded Amazon 1994, when only 13% of Americans were online. That is a long-range vision, and that is a long-range investor group who is making a fortune off of their long-term planning. They looked at it and said, this is coming. All right. One of the reasons, again, I'm looking at you as marketers and saying you're planning your budgets, and you have somebody saying, oh, well, we still want to do a bunch of print magazines, and we want to do a mix. I'm a very big proponent of online for being able to reach people in buying mode and helping to spread your brand. This chart right here actually shows that as of June of this year, spending on Google search only, not online ads, not banner ads, topped out all spending on newspaper and magazines in the United States. Google took in $20 billion in the first 6 months of 2012 versus $19 billion in newspaper and print. All right, so keep going, gotta keep moving through this. Stop procrastinating on mobile. How many people have mobile sites? I don't want to embarrass people. How many of you start looking at dynamic technology so that you don't have to have a mobile site and a version? If you don't know what that means, I'm sure somebody at the mobile table will explain to you. What percentage of website views do you think nationally are done via mobile phone? Let's throw some numbers. Anybody?
40, 2.6 billion.
It is currently lower than you would think. 15 to 20% of mobile views across sites are on. If you are a restaurant, anybody here work for a restaurant? No. 50% of your website views will come from a mobile phone. If you don't know your Google Analytics or your analytics package, if you use a paid analytics program, if you don't know that data and you haven't built your mobile site, you can build a mobile site for very low cost. You haven't done it and you're losing all the people, and you haven't looked at your analytics and said, oh, I had a client recently, I was like, you have 27% of your views are coming mobile and you won't spend $1,500 to just build a version of your site in mobile. 27% of your views, that's a huge part of your audience that's going to bounce because you haven't built that mobile site. Tablets, get index finger friendly is what I gotta tell you. The tablet sales projections for this Christmas, who's getting one? Who's asked Santa for a tablet of some variety, nature, to replace what they've only had for 2 years anyway? We're expected to hit 133 million tablets by 2015. 133 million users sitting around. One of the things that means is also to your website, I call it index finger friendly. If you're talking to somebody on an iPhone, you're talking to somebody on a tablet, if your touch buttons, your clicks, and your URLs are not at least 40 pixels by 40 pixels, the average American finger has to be able to click easily, or they're going to end up clicking the wrong place. They'll click cancel when they meant to click accept. If you're not index finger friendly, now is the time. Onward. So I just told you the facts, but this is actually the screen size data, how it is by age. So again, you can look at your audience and say, well, my customers are this age range, but learn your demographics and recognize that these things matter. Especially if you have a younger demographic, if you're not really thinking about mobile sites and index finger friendly sites, start changing your thinking. These are random infographics for your boss, as I call them. So when your boss says, we don't need to build a mobile site, percent of adults who own a smartphone, we're at 45. By January 2013, we're going to cross 50. If you are looking for a high-income household, 68% over 75,000 have a smartphone in their house. And that's not even really high income if you ask people who are doing the fiscal cliff. All right. This last subject, or not even last, review sites matter. How many of you are paying attention to your online reputation management? Looking at your reviews, paying attention. Hey, I like it. This is a stupid statistic, but it's true. Are you ready? The first one. 72% of Americans weight the value of an online review of someone they don't know as highly valuable as a personal recommendation from someone who's their friend. 72%. That is expected to change in the next 5 years, but as a marketer, I would take advantage of it. I would make sure that people can make comments. If you think about the fact that right now everybody sees the comments and it's new still, kind of thinking-wise, but if you can see that on your e-commerce site, hey, so-and-so liked this, and that has as much impact as their best friend saying they liked it, why aren't you showing those reviews? Why aren't you harvesting those reviews and encouraging it? Number of reviews matters. I was having a great conversation with Brian and Dave from Content Active before, and we're talking about really encouraging more reviews. If you go to Yelp and you see a restaurant and it has 5 stars, but it only has 2 reviews, is that as valuable as a restaurant that has 560 reviews, but maybe 4 stars? Which review system do you take? Are you encouraging reviews? Do your marketing materials say, review your experience? Are you sending a follow-up email saying, hey, if you had a really good customer experience, review us on this site. If you didn't, let me know so I can fix it for you. In B2B, that works. I mean, you can do it in B2B. And I'll give you an example from Yelp. A half-star review difference on Yelp, half-star, yields 20%, actually 19% more reservations for a restaurant. So if you start thinking about that statistic carried out, those positive reviews are impacting restaurant reservations at that level. They're having the same effect on your business. And if you're only letting the negative reviews be out there and you're not encouraging happy customers to talk about you, and the angry people are always going to go online and talk about you. They will. They're angry. They want to tell somebody the story. You have to encourage your happy people. They review to everybody. All right. How many of you have video on your website? How many of you are using video channels to promote your message? Okay, everybody else, start creating a video now. One of the things I tell people, YouTube is the second largest search engine, right behind Google. It's owned by Google. Google has $1 billion, billions of dollars, sitting in a bank, investing money in developing YouTube. Americans are going to leave cable. They're leaving it in droves. And they are going to get all their televisions and content online. Comcast has created a program called Houston's Voice. They're actually trying to figure out how do they get people to watch their content online. People are going online, and if Google is investing all that money in YouTube to make it dominant video, it's having a huge impact on search. If you are not creating videos and you are not using closed captioning tools, all the different things that you can do to help your video be searchable, really reconsider that. Americans, I always use the analogy, are there more bookstores being built or more electronic stores being built? Americans don't like to read. We're not going to keep reading. And if you can give it to them in video format and you can do all the right search engine optimization pieces, you can get there and do it. By the way, video, 5 times greater retention. If I read it versus watch it, I'm going to remember it. Has a bigger impact on the brand. I'll remember what the brand looks like. You don't have to have a huge television budget. You can do a video. It's great. Peer recommendations are powerful. Again, you go to that argument, 72% value the value just as much. If you go through the concept of you actually get customers to say, hey, this is the best company I could work with. They've made my life beautiful. Don't you think that's going to help you? Isn't that easier than going to a customer and saying, let me tell you how wonderful we are? I'd be more comfortable saying, here, watch this video, and let my customer tell you that they think I'm wonderful. All right, stats back that up. I don't even have to read this. Y'all will get this deck from HiMA. But we're actually watching longer format video. People are watching more on their web phones. They will sit and watch a phone video longer. So if they're sitting somewhere bored, they will actually spend more time watching it. But it's also because the younger generation is no longer going to their cable box. They are going to Hulu, they're going to Vimeo, they are going to user-generated content, and they are watching it just as much as we grew up watching our television. And by younger generation, I really do, there's a couple of you that fit in this category, but under 25. I look in the room and I'm like, under 25. And then all my CRM people, whoever's going to the CRM table, email's not dead. And we keep hearing that email's dead. It's not. 94% of Americans check email daily. So you say, well, I'm using my social media channels. People who use social media are 60% more likely to check their email at least 4 times a day. So they haven't said, oh, I'm using social media or I'm using texting and I'm not going to check email. I see a lot of companies abandoning their email strategy. One of the things I also tell people, my average open rate on my email campaigns is still around 18 to 23% depending on the client. So I've got an open rate. Facebook tells you point blank you're only going to get 17% of your fans to see the message when you post it. I can either target 18 to 23% of the people, or I can target 17 on Facebook. And honestly, even if you delete somebody's message on your phone or in your email inbox, did you get a brand impression? Email's not dead. Don't give it up. Don't walk it away. You have to make them all work together. You do have to improve your email campaigns. You want to incorporate your content from social. Again, 72% of people think if someone else says it's great, it must be great. So if you have a wonderful user review that someone sent in on Facebook or Twitter, or a picture someone sent in, incorporate it into your emails. Use less jargon, use more friendly words. And then one of the worst offenders right now is people who are doing email campaigns that are not mobile friendly. All their content embedded in a single JPEG that if you don't have it set to download images, it's basically dead. People who are still just saying header 1 is their JPEG name, so that's all I see on my phone is header 1. If you're not really thinking about the fact that a significant percentage of your emails are being seen only on a mobile phone before someone clicks delete, reconsider. All right, social networks, we're going to go through very quickly. I'm sure y'all are all doing it, and I try not to talk about social because it gets so over-discussed. But what I do see in social is people are not thinking about the SEO impact of social. They're not looking at their keyword effect in their social media posts. They're not looking at what the name of their page is in Facebook, and does it tell you? If I were a marketing consulting firm in Houston, I would want to make sure that my Facebook page name said marketing consultant because it is a search engine. People go use the Bing tool and search. If you are not thinking about your keyword strategy across your social media campaigns, start thinking about it. There's actually a company in California, they're finishing out their test model right now, where they basically backwards engineered in their mind the SEO model under Facebook so that you can actually rank higher when people are doing searches for social content. It is going to be the answer. Think about your naming, think about your phrases, and then personal and professional networks. I still see people who are posting the same content to Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, or all across. Facebook one is not the same thing as Twitter, and Twitter is not the same as Facebook, and LinkedIn is a professional network. People are going there for professional content. There's really great research about what people are doing. There's really great research. If you're not using LinkedIn for marketing and you're looking for an affluent customer base with high education levels, and you're not using LinkedIn, go take a look. The education levels and income levels on LinkedIn will give you the best consumers in America right now. How many of you have updated your LinkedIn page? If you're a business-to-business marketer, how many of you have updated your LinkedIn profile cover and put your advertising message up? How many of you knew that in October, LinkedIn let you start putting your Facebook cover, profile cover up? LinkedIn now allows you to put a profile image up just like your Facebook timeline. So you can put an ad up there, so when someone comes to your LinkedIn page, they're not just seeing white copy and LinkedIn-ness. You can brand yourself. It's very powerful. It makes you have a brand presence, and it's a simple thing to do. The changes LinkedIn has initiated in the last quarter of this year are, one, bringing more people to LinkedIn. They just got another round of investor capital. They're going to be doing a lot more in 2013. And as far as professional networks go, they own it. So if you're in B2B and you're not paying attention to LinkedIn, start focusing on it. Last one of my things on social networks is digital habits matter. How many of you check Facebook every day? How many of you, first thing in the morning, you look at your phone and see what happened in email overnight? So how many of you, when you go on vacation, even though you've sworn you're not going to do that, you're like, where's my phone? I need my phone. It's a habit. It's like smoking cigarettes. It's like eating breakfast. It's like going for a run. Don't let people lose the habit of coming to your website or engaging with you. Because once they forget about you, it's over. And if you don't start thinking about behaviors you want as habits, you're not going to be able to incorporate them. It is like smoking. It is something you have to do. You have to make people feel that way. And this last one is, how many of you heard about Google's field trip? Launched last week. Google has a group of people whose job it is by 2020 is to eradicate search. Google has a group whose mission is to eradicate search. Think about that thought for a minute. They're saying that so many people go to search right now because their computers and phones aren't intuitive to where they are and what they need. Google says we have enough information about you and your past behaviors that we're actually going to build a world where if you open your phone, if you have a Droid phone, you can download Field Trip. It actually tells you, like based on past places you've been, oh, there's a cocktail bar here that might be the kind you like, based on your reviews that you've written online. It's going to start to point you to things based on, so you don't actually have to hit search and say, hey, I'm looking for a lunch place nearby. It's going to say, oh, it's noon where she is. Let's start showing her restaurants. She might be hungry. It pops up on my phone. It's the craziest thing. It tells me, hey, this bar. Hey, this historic point. Hey, this. But they really are starting to work towards a model where you don't have to search. It's going to be intuitive. And again, how many billions of dollars? What's their stock market capitalization? They have a plan. They're going to get there. Last thing, and this is my last thing. There's a talent shortage. How many of you are in charge of the budgets for your marketing department? How much money do you have allocated for training? Okay. there are not, if you are doing interactive marketing and you think you're gonna go run an ad and find somebody who knows what you need done, stop thinking that. It is the biggest talent shortage out there. Inc. magazine has put it on the top 3, it's at the top list for the past 3 years of people that are not able to be found. People who understand social, who understand internet marketing strategy and can implement it is one of the categories that is most difficult to find. If you can do that, and that's what you're doing for your company, and you need to keep developing your skills because you are going to be in demand. The shortage is out there. 81% of organizations, you're not alone, are spending $1,000 less a year, and 36% say nothing at all. But you're not going to find them. You're not going to run an ad. Start training the people you have who understand your core business model. Start training the people who already understand what you're doing. If they already understand your business model and they've been doing a different category, and you think, hey, they would be really good at running my integrated campaign, start sending them to classes and train them, because there is no more hiring, there is no more. You have to go create a farm system, or you have to find a way to develop that skill in your own department. And that trend this year, why I say the last one I'm putting up there for 2013, all the companies that were in recession mindset and now are exploding in growth in Houston are going to be poaching your talent. How many of you think, wow, I have this star in my department right now, and they might have been staying because, oh, it was a recession and they were worried they wouldn't find another job? That's over. The recruiters are going to be out, they're going to be looking for your people, and a good marketing tool for keeping your staff is saying, I'm investing in your future by helping you learn new skills. And that's it.